Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Mary Beth? So lovely to talk to you. By the way,
Good.
Blair Witch as well. So
Blair
yeah,
Witch,
yeah,
Blair
yeah, yeah.
Witch.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah,
So cool. Okay, obviously, like I pulled out my revival comics, like not to compare page to page, obviously, because that's not fair,
yeah.
but I just
Sure, sure,
wanted to
sure.
like remind myself, and I wanted to know first, like just starting off, you're a showrunner and executive producer on Revival, correct? So
Yeah.
what is your relationship to the comic? Did you have a relationship to it before you came to the project at all?
No, no. I mean, so
Cool.
really, that came from Luke Boyce. So Luke and I made
Sick.
this little movie Revealer, right? That Tim Seeley wrote, and we just became good pals.
Everyone,
And
Revealer also really fucks. You should go check it out. Sorry.
it's so good. It's so good.
It's
We
so
made that
fun.
thing like peak COVID for like
Yeah, I
literally no
know.
money. It
Like
was like
I talked to
May of
him and you
2020.
guys
Yeah.
made it in like the most ridiculous way, but like in a cool way to make it work for
Yeah.
COVID. Like I remember talking to him and
Yeah.
hearing all of the stuff that y'all went through. But anyway, guys, Revealer before you see Revival if you want a taste of Luke Boyce.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It's great. It's great. No, 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 no. It was wonderful and had a wonderful experience. Luke directed that. I produced that. And we during the post process in particular, like we really kind of got together about the notes and everything and just really clicked. And I was like, oh, and I knew who Tim Seeley was. I had read Hack Slash, but I had not read Revival. And so I was like, oh, I'm curious about, just I met with Tim and we just chatted about life and random things. And then all of a sudden, Luke's like, hey, I have the rights to this comic, Revival. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, wow, this is a really popular comic. Like, yeah, let me look into this and see what it is. And he had been trying to get it made into a movie for the longest time. And he brought it to me, and I read the
Oh,
first issue and was just hooked, like immediately
right?
hooked. And I'm like, I gotta know what's gonna happen. Like, oh my God, like just that whole scene in the barn was just so epic. And I was so enthralled in everything that was going on in this world. And then it's 47 issues and it's sprawling and all this stuff. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is hard for a movie, dude. Like,
I
I think, but
know.
but I think there's a TV series, I think there's a TV series in here.
Smart.
And
I think that was so
yes.
smart, by the way. I like because you have more time you don't have to really pack everything in there. Like you have a little bit more time to let a lot of the stuff like grow and let people grow to the characters and not have to shove everything into one 2 hour narrative.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's so amazing to be able to like as I was, as the main writer on the show and like as I'm going through and you're like developing different characters, I'm like, oh God, in a movie, I'd be like, okay, I gotta have a scene right now to do this with this character. I'm like, oh no, I don't have to do that right now. I could just plant a seed and then that could be 2 episodes later and 2 episodes later and like grow this and like become something. And it was just such a different freeing. There's all kinds of, there's other limitations that are very, very difficult in TV schedule wise and everything. But
Oh, I
it
can only imagine.
is, it's just the freedom to really like dive into character and to play them in a different way because that's what pushes. And we always say it in movies, we're like, oh, character comes first, but like in TV, it really does. You know what I mean?
Yes, but you
Like
have to be
it's
so invested in them for so many episodes. Like in a movie, like, oh, I didn't like them, I don't have to worry about it. But for a TV show, it's like you have to really be able to carry that through how many episodes are in the first season?
10 episodes,
10.
10,
Okay,
10 in
yeah.
all.
That's it.
Yeah.
You have to make
Yeah.
sure you care about that. And it's like, especially the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
season
Yeah.
of a show like
Yeah.
this. Like you want to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was so obviously my first real I did a small series called Tales from the Void that based on some no sleep stories that I EP'd, but I wasn't the main kind of creative force behind that. And then, but Luke, to Luke's credit, like he found this comic, he hustled and became good friends with Tim Seeley and Mike Norton and got the rights. And he was like, look, man, I don't know what to do anymore. This is my dream project. And I was like, man, I am into this. And like, and I even said, I was like, listen, I don't want to just produce this one though. Like, I love this material so much. Like, I want to get involved. I want to write, and
Oh, that's
him. And
so
then,
cool.
yeah, so we just started banging it out. Like, just immediately started working on a pilot. We brought in Michael Marisi, who also was a writer on Revealer, another big comic book writer, and brought him in. And the three of us wrote the pilot. And then I took it out, and we went and pushed, and I got the series sold. So it was
That's
completely crazy.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cool. I was it is cool to hear like about tackling a graphic novel because I know graphic novel series, and even though this one is a little bit smaller, it's still a long, sprawling mystery, and it's really cool to hear how you guys wanted to tackle it. But I am curious, did you guys? when you were writing, did you have like any rules about staying true to material, but also giving yourself create like obviously creative liberties? And you're working with obviously people who like, who wrote it. But were there any kind of rules that you guys had for yourselves at all in the writer's room in terms of staying on it, like staying true to what is in the graphic novel versus what you guys wanted to do to either expand or make it work better for the format of television?
I mean, it's probably smart of us to have had rules, but this is my first writer's room, so I didn't know what I was doing.
Hell
And
yeah.
we just our we just kept saying, let's have our cake and eat it too. Let's have our cake and eat it too. It's like, okay, what can we take that's in the comic that we love, and then let's do this on top of it, or let's. I mean, the biggest thing I would say that I wouldn't call it a rule, but it was kind of a guiding principle, if you will,
Okay.
was what is an expectation that's going to happen with the comic, and how do we set that up, and then pull the rug or twist it slightly so that it keeps them like, oh, that is the comic, but then that's not the comic, but then this is the comic, and and like even changing certain characters narratives and where that can play. And
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun, and just really enjoyed kind of like pulling back those layers. But Luke is so close to the material, so it was kind of, and I was trying to push us, I'm like, sometimes like, well, let's try to swing this way. And then we would find that nice balance the whole time. And then we brought
That's
in
nice.
Tim and Mike came into the writers' room a couple times and spoke with the rest of our writers, and and just were very encouraging. And we wanted to make sure we were doing it justice, but at the same time making our own thing. Because it really is, it's just such a
Yeah.
different narrative. Like what's on the page and what's in the panels is sometimes impossible to translate,
Oh
unless you
yeah.
have
Oh
like
God, yeah.
certain but unlimited budget, which we did not have. We were very limited budgetarily, but I think it kind of creates this interesting tapestry where you can try to like peel back layers of like what was in between the panels, and what are the things that are happening here, and what are those
Cool.
moments to kind of like live with the characters in more depth, and have some more fun with. And and not and then also streamline a little bit of the story too. Like we really tried to say, okay, because there's like crazy shit happens in these comics. And,
Yes.
I mean, there's Amish ninjas and, I mean, all kinds of stuff. Like it's crazy. And we're like, okay, this is cool, but I want to start, let's keep a very grounded, like murder
Yeah.
mystery story about the family, about the sisters to start. And then let's slowly sprinkle in more of the crazy. And, a lot of my work, like we're genre enthusiasts, horror enthusiasts, practical effects, like the whole thing, all this stuff. So I'm like, I got to do all this stuff, but how do we rope in maybe the more tame viewers at the start and like, okay, there's a horror show here. And then once we've kind of roped them into the story, then it's like, oh my God, like now we're hitting you with all the shit that I love to do.
Hell yeah.
So it was just fun. It was fun to kind of balance that out. Yeah.
I love that. Well, and I've only seen the first four episodes, those are the only ones
Mm,
available. But like as a fan of the comic, it's really awesome watching this and I haven't read it in a while, being like, oh, I love how the liberties you've taken and how you kind of stretched and expanded. But Dana's character especially, and the woman you've got to play her, Melanie Scrofano as
Scrifano,
Dana.
yeah.
Scrofano, pardon me. She is incredible. I love this balance of like, yeah, she's a cop, but also she loves to chatter like kind of manically and like make jokes. And I
Hmm.
love this balance of her as a character and how you walk that line a lot of the time with the humor and the horror. So I wanted to hear about casting her as your Dana and finding your Dana because she really is kind of like one of the anchor points of the show. And I love
Oh,
how she talks. I love she's not like a cop. She's just like a girl who might also have a cop badge. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't feel like your
yeah.
usual like cop character, which is awesome.
Well, that's a great kind of in there, because in the comic you don't necessarily explore like why she becomes a cop and what was there. So
Yeah.
when we were talking with Melanie, it was like, I think you got forced to kind of become a cop because your dad was a cop and you just thought this was the thing, but then you realized you were good at it and you loved watching Columbo and it kind of became this like world for you. And I think that comes out in her crassness and just her like I don't give a fuck kind of attitude, or whatever's there. And I think there's something really fun about the balance of that. But I
Yeah.
mean, look, people will always they'll talk about a show and like, oh, this actor, they're the greatest thing in the world. And don't get me wrong, a lot of times it's true, sometimes it's not. Um, she is pure magic. Like Melanie is so good. I am over the moon for the world to see. And there's a lot of fans of her from Winona Earp, and she's got a big part in
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds with Star Trek and stuff too. And there's so she's got a sci-fi audience, and there's definitely something that's there. But I really think, I mean, she goes to emotional depths, comedic comedic heights, like all these weird and everything in between. And she was immediately was on our list because we had seen the she's got this like snarkiness on Wine on Earth that's really funny. And then in Letterkenny, she plays this
Yes.
completely this unbelievably horrible human, but I love her in it so much. I'm like, okay, this is she's fun. Like she's got all these different sides to her. Even in Ready or Not, she had like scene stealing moments, you know, in there too. She pops up
Yes.
in things all the times, and I always noticed her. And then I watched her reel. They sent me her reel, and I was like, "Oh my guys, like what is this? This is Dana. This is Dana." Like we immediately engaged, and yeah, I mean, and it started. The casting process started with her. She was the first domino, and then it was like, okay,
Oh,
how do we
cool.
fit everything from there? Because Dana, especially in this season, even though like M is kind of the heartbeat, I think, of revival. Dana is really our journey into understanding,
Yeah.
you know, the setting and what's there. I think, you know, and they're kind of, you know, as the two sisters of the primary story. But we wanted to start, you know, with our Dana. I almost said start with our Melanie because it is starting with our Melanie because she just is. There's no Dana and Melanie. They are the same thing now at this
Yeah.
point. And then from there, it was like, okay, now start casting like who can fit the father, who can fit, you know, the younger sister, you know, and we created a little bit more of an age gap to kind of play with that. There were some dynamics and story elements that we want to that'll happen in later episodes. And oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I also can't wait for you to see like episodes 5 and 6. Like I'll make sure we get those to you because we actually will finish those this week. We'll have them ready for delivery. Episode 6 is my favorite episode of the season,
Ah,
and it's so and it's when we also get into, sorry, I'm digressing here, but it's also when we
no,
also get
not at
into
all.
elements in the comic that you're like, I haven't seen these things yet.
Okay, okay.
And
I think we're hitting a similar wavelength because I wanted to ask about
yeah,
something, but I didn't want to spoil it because if you haven't read the comics, like I don't want to spoil a certain thing that's pretty introduced really early in the comics that's not in the
yeah,
show
yeah.
yet, but there's hints at it, and I'm like, I know we're going there. And I like that you're not giving it to us immediately, but I'm very excited to see how that all comes together with a certain element that hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah, and I will say that element is a large puppet that has been
Ah!
created. So it's practical, it's a whole thing. Like
My
it's
God, I'm so excited for that.
yeah,
I was so curious how you guys were gonna pull that off because that's a big part
yeah.
and a big weird, like a hard part, I feel like, because it is such a like
Oh
big
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, well, and part of that budgetarily was like, can we really put us in this world and have it this soon and how expensive it is to do those. So we had to kind of pick our battles and
Yeah.
pick our moments. But
Yeah.
I think we did it in a fun way. I hope people resonate. But it's I'm very, very proud of the way we put that together. And it was Steve Kostanski and his team who did all the
Oh,
effects for it.
of
So
course.
and they completely slayed and killed it. And so it's exciting. So yeah, we
Oh,
get
I'm
into
so
that and
excited.
get into some of the more gore violence and some of that stuff starts to really pick up, you know, as we move along
And I
as
mean,
well.
like, there is a lot, there's still gore in it, everyone. Like, when you watch it, like, it starts, I mean, it opens with someone on fire. So, like, don't worry. Like, we're talking
Yeah.
about gore picking up, but there's still a good amount of nasty things happening, everyone. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
And we
Like,
really set him on fire too. Like we really set him on fire too. That's another thing. Like it was we had one take. We got to do it
I
one
was gonna
time,
say fire
you
takes are
know?
hard. Fire stunts are hard. You really don't have many takes of that, especially at a
I
lower
know.
budget. Like that's a
I'm
hard one to
watching
do.
I'm watching Last of Us and I'm seeing like all these people on fire and stuff. I'm like, oh, we had one person one time, you know? And
And
I'm
you were like,
like,
that was our whole night.
it was the whole thing, you know? And but you know, but then I think again, you just lead into like those, but again, my favorite moments of Last of Us a lot of times are the conversational moments when we're
Yeah.
just talking about people that we care about. And if you find a way to connect with that, then you don't have to have the biggest set pieces in the world. You can just start to
Yeah.
follow in the journey of these people and like Dana, one of my favorite scenes in the pilot is Dana and Em in the car talking. Just literally just them
Yeah.
talking, you know?
Yeah.
And very, very proud. We rewrote that scene at the very end because we shot the driving scenes basically after we shot the majority of the series. And you know, and I think it's a
Oh.
really and it's a there's a lot of things that are set up in that conversation that come to play in later episodes. And I just think I'm really proud of it, you know, and but it's those moments, you know, that I think really start to create something that I think the audience hopefully can connect with and on an
Yeah.
emotional and pragmatic level. Yeah.
Well, it's impressive how y'all were able to make this. Again, like this is a show that if you're not familiar with the comics, you're still gonna love it because you don't make it like you put us all in the world as if no one knows what's going on. And it was a really awesome, it's a great balance of like there's like a hack and slash Easter egg at one point in one of the episodes. Like there's Easter
Yeah.
eggs for people who love all this stuff, but for people who aren't familiar, it's not a hard entry point. It's not like a Marvel comic thing. I know people always kind of think about
Yeah.
that, but y'all make it really easy and accessible for everyone to enjoy it if they're not familiar, which I think is
Yeah.
always a great accomplishment when you're adapting something with such a big fan base. Um, yeah. But that's got to
Yeah.
be a cool challenge. And it's such a cool challenge for you in your first like writer's room to be able to tackle that. Like that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, we were lucky to have some veteran writers like Noel Carbone and Ashley Park and Heather Taylor. So we had a really great room that was
Hell
there,
yeah.
but it was like yeah, it definitely was a challenge and trying to figure out. And again, like how do you take 47 issues and try to figure out this through line that we think is the most important, and then how do you try to resolve maybe like there's things that resolve in the season that are at the end of the comics, but then there's things that we go back, hopefully we have future
Yeah.
seasons if people do watch June 12th on Sci-Fi, June
June
19th on
12th on
Peacock.
SyFy, everybody.
Yeah.
June 19th on Peacock.
Please, please. Yeah, so if they watch, then I think, there's a good chance that we can really go into some of the more fun stuff in season two and season three. But
Hell
uh,
yeah.
but yeah, like how do you condense that? How do you condense these storylines to really get you focused on, the journey? And then again, subvert the expectations if you know the comic, or even if you're just like a genre enthusiast and you're like, I think I see where this is going. And okay, how do you kind of change those expectations? And we took a I mean, I don't know how many times I rewatched like Mare of Easttown and early Fargo series of like murder mysteries and just, okay, they're really good at what they do and how they craft this. Like, how do I learn from them
Yeah.
and
That's so
and try
smart
to craft
though.
this?
Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
like I can't be sitting here thinking I can come up with everything on my own. I gotta like, how do I see what it is they've done, see what's happening in the comic, find ways to connect dots, and then find ways to illustrate this in our world that allows us to have the right kind of cliffhangers, so that at the end of every episode something's happening that's pushing you forward and pushing you forward. And then it's a murder mystery, which was so fun to dissect, where you're like, okay, we're going to push you this direction, and then we're going to pull you this direction, and
Yeah.
then and it keeps you guessing. And I hope all the way to midway through episode 10, you're still kind of like guessing, the whole way through, which I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. And I did
Yeah.
want to shout out the music here between the score and then music that the needle drops like and it's very much
Mm,
my kind of music. So, and I've talked to
yeah.
Luke before about music because I think him and I have very similar music tastes, but did you have any hand in working with the composer at all and working with Luke or with the music supervisor to kind of shape the tone that the music does for this? Because I really love the spooky but ethereal vibe that the score gives everything because I know it's like always talked about as a noir and a mystery crime thriller, but there is a little bit of that like fairy tale, but there's a little something like that there, a little sprinkle of like a fairy tale in here. And I like how the music gives you that vibe without it being too overpowering.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you asked because I'm obsessed with the music.
It's so
And yes,
good.
I'm so into it. So I mean, the composer of Revealer, who's also the composer of the Pale Door or the Scare Package movies, is Alex
Okay,
Cuervo.
cool.
And then we brought him in. He's my longtime composer for everything. And then paired him
Oh,
with
hell yeah.
yeah, so I mean, he's just wonderful and one of my, dearest friends. So bringing him in and knowing what it is he could do, but then we wanted a feminine touch and we wanted something to that kind of like fairy, ethereal, like feeling this kind of world. We brought in Lydia Ainsworth, who's magic. Like her voice is so angelic, and she plays every instrument, and she's so classically trained musically, and she hadn't done a ton of stuff, but we were like there's this mix of like like Alex Cuervo's kind of like punk rock weird roots mixed with Lydia's angelic kind of, and she has this darkness to it as well. that we thought could really, really play. And yeah, I'm so proud of that. And no, and then the needle drop, we work with the Wilders and Asha and Jody, the team there are just amazing. And yeah, Cocktail Twins and Moth and the Flame and
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
I
Those
mean
touches
Alkaline
are so cool.
Trio,
Yeah,
like yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
very, very proud. And some great stuff in the latter half too. Like really, really great stuff too. Yeah.
That's yeah, I'm excited. But like I love that. Like just I feel like a lot of the time music, especially in TV, doesn't get its flowers. And I feel like I could tell the work was there with like the way the soundscape is shaped in this. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've already made a playlist on Spotify of all the needle drops that are in the show
Yes.
because I'm so obsessed with what we got. And like, we were like at the last minute, we're trying to like, okay, I need a little more budget. We got to get this song, we got to get this thing. And every episode ends with like a pretty big needle drop, for the
It
most part.
does.
And
It's
yeah, which
awesome.
was which was a goal. It was a goal from me from the start. Like
But also like
I
it gives me
love
like
seeing that.
classic like I used to watch a lot of CW and like they always ended on a needle drop and by no means is Revival a CW show, but it just
No, no,
reminds me
no,
of like
no.
old like watching TV in the 2000s when every episode of a show would end on like a rad ass needle drop and a cliffhanger. It just like took me back to that in the best way possible. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, Mary Beth, if you had any idea how often Luke and I referenced the OC when we were talking
Yes.
about this, so you're totally
Yes.
in our
Okay, cool.
zone.
I was
Yeah,
like, it's not like that at all, but like there are little sprinkles of it that I love,
yeah,
just like reminding me of that era of television in
yeah.
the best way. That's so cool.
Well,
Oh,
there's
that's
there's
so rad.
episodes in that world where like I can't even tell you what happens in those episodes, but I remember the way the needle drop hits
Yeah.
and the thing and a feeling that I had, and like the frou frou song and what you said, like
Oh my
things like
God,
you know
yes.
what I mean, like things
Yes.
like that are so fun. And I'm like, okay, how do we create moments? And like we're talking, I mean, we're shooting moments. That I'm saying this is going to have a needle drop on it, and I'm talking with the
Oh,
directors
cool.
about
Okay.
specifically what I want them to do for needle drop moments like in spacing like it was
Oh, okay. So those
very
were like in the
much.
scripts. Like they were written in like you guys knew that you wanted even from the script level to have those kinds of moments like as part of the series.
Yeah, which song we got, we did not know what we'd be able to get.
Hell
But
yeah.
we did know a vibe, and I knew there was going to
Okay.
be a vibe, of what it was. But I mean, we got a lot of the music we wanted, though. I gotta say, I mean, we weren't
Oh,
trying
that's
to put the
awesome.
Rolling Stones in here or anything, so
Yeah.
we knew that I couldn't get that or Imagine, put into
Yeah.
this, but we picked a lot of indie bands and a lot of things, and this show takes place in 2008, so there was something about that era of music which I thought was fun, sprinkling a little early
That's
aughts
that to
emo
me.
and
I was
stuff.
like, that was very much my vibe in 2008. It was like emo, sad emo indie bands. So I was like, oh my God, it's like they looked right into my sad little mind when I was in 2008 and took the music off my iPod video and put it in the
Yeah, yeah.
show.
I mean, that's the Kurt Love, who's one of our editors, also the editor of BlackBerry and all that. When he came in, him and I completely geeked out over like, okay, let's get Census Fail, let's look at Taking Back Sunday and Alkaline Trio and like all this stuff that we were trying to like play with and put in, but then
Oh,
mix it with like that like Crow soundtrack era stuff,
yeah.
that's like there, like what that is. So it was so, I mean,
That's so cool.
I could talk to you about music for forever. It was such a big part of the show, and it still is because we're still finishing the show right now.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
and I'm
say.
literally giving notes on like the last episodes, and we're talking with Lydia and Alex,
That's
who are
crazy.
just a force. The two of them together are such a force. Yeah.
Y'all really got a really cool team together, it sounds like, for this show. Like for this, it sounds like it was such a labor of love, especially for Luke and you when you came on. And it's so cool to see it all come to fruition like this. Like that's gotta be, and for SyFy and Peacock, like that's just so cool. And having it accessible like that, it's gotta be such a dream come true for
It,
y'all. That's
it's
so
it's
cool.
silly. It's
It's
silly. I
silly,
don't
but like in the
understand.
coolest
I'm
way.
like, what is happening? Like
What
what is
is this?
happening?
I'm so
How am
cool with
I?
it, but like, what?
Well, I mean, I'm just, as you know, like I've made a lot of feature films, and that's this
Yeah.
role. I'm very, very proud of what I've done as a producer. But there was a level of like, I also want to kind of make my own things, and I want to be able to write
Yeah.
more and do some of this. And I can't, and this was, I mean, just a shot in the dark. I'm like, can I really get a TV show greenlit? Like, it's so hard to get anything made right now. Is this actually possible? And then I did. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, it took years. Don't get me wrong. It took multiple years. Um,
Everyone, making stuff is real hard and takes years. Just so everyone, in
yes,
case anyone
yes,
wasn't sure, it takes literally years to make anything happen. That's why
yeah.
they're all miracles. The fact
It's
that you make 10
it's
episodes is like so many little miracles in and of
oh my goodness.
itself.
Samir Ham, who's our Block 2 director, I remember at one point, like we're shooting a Block 2, it's so crazy, and everything that go wrong is going wrong, and all that Murphy's Law stuff that's happening. And he's just like, I don't even know if we have a show. I don't even know what's gonna happen. And then then we get into the edit, and he's like, it actually works. It actually works. And and we're like hugging each other because we're like, oh my God. This thing that on the day we had no idea if this could actually work the right way, and it did. And then we're also shooting this stuff with like out the puppet, and you shoot the puppet later and you're placing all this stuff in. We're like, can that work, and
Oh,
is that going to look? He had worked on the Chucky series a lot, so he knew how to work with puppets and had very good background. And Amanda
oh,
Rowe, who
that's
was our
cool.
pilot director, she did as well. So we were able to kind of really tap into their insight for how to really kind of plan this out. And
Oh,
obviously, Steve Kazansky has a lot of puppet experience as well, and like Frankie Frico and PG and
you
everything
know,
that he's done.
whatever. Him just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
casually, whatever. Steve
yeah,
Kasansky.
yeah. He's God. He's such a trooper. Like him and
He
his team just
is.
work so hard. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's the hardest workers out there, and they really make the weirdest stuff complimentary. When I say weirdest, it is
Oh,
highly complimentary. And that's so,
oh, I
wow.
love it. I love it. I want it every time somebody sees Paper Street Pictures, anywhere, like, oh, we're gonna get some like weird shit, like I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. I don't want us to fit into some box or anything with that. I just want it to be like, oh, we're gonna take a swing and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but we're gonna take a swing and we're gonna go for something and make something unique. And I mean, even all the conversations with SyFy and NBC and everything, it was like, well, and I say this with love to them, they kind of want us to stay in a box, like, oh, well, the
Yeah,
audience this. And I've had multiple impassioned pleas with them, like, guys, don't worry, let's not worry about that. Like I think our audience is smarter than that. I think that we can challenge them. I think that we can push the envelope and like let's just try. Like if it doesn't work, then tell me it didn't work and don't greenlight a season two. But I think if we go for this and you allow us if we to push for this, we can do it. And they did, and we withheld spoilers and stuff from here and everything as well, that I think a lot of people would have assumed that we might have led with some of those spoilers at the end of the pilot, and things like that. And I think it's
yeah,
fun to find the balance, and be like, no, I think we got a lot of, I mean, this is a murder mystery where the person's still alive. Like that's cool. I've never seen that
yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
what is
And like
that
they had
show?
and they also had Chucky, and they saw how much I know Chucky is his own IP, but like I don't know, there's such a hunger for genre TV right now, and I think y'all are gonna deliver quite a delicious meal to people hungry for
Mm.
more horror TV.
I mean, in the end, I appreciate you saying that deeply. And I think in the end, we're just trying to make a show that I'm like, do I think is cool? Like, I don't know
Yeah,
what's going to happen
no,
with everybody
but
else.
like that's the
Like,
vibe though. I feel like
yeah.
to me, when a person be like, I loved making this for myself and I put myself into it, I just feel like those projects have so much more likelihood of being successful because they're so full of love and like care and poured into that. And I think you can really tell the difference. So I think that's going to be a big help for revival because you
Mm.
can tell how much y'all care about the source material. You're not
Yeah.
you're treating it with like love and care and putting that comedy in there, but not making it too silly. And again, that's such a hard line to walk, as we've seen in so many horror comedies. And I wouldn't call this a horror comedy by any stretch, but there obviously are dashes of comedy throughout it, and it's cool. I
Yeah.
have to
I mean, I'm
wrap,
always going to do
Aaron.
that.
I'm so
I'm always going to do
sorry.
comedy with it too. But yeah. No, no, no. All good. I
I'm so
just so
sorry. We
appreciative of
talked
chatting
so
with you.
time. I know,
Yeah.
but it was awesome to talk to you. I've been like so excited for you and Luke to do this. So I was
Mm.
like so excited to chat with you and just see that what y'all have accomplished so far just in the 4 episodes I've seen. It's really exciting.
We'll,
So
we'll get you a couple
everybody,
more. Yeah.
but everyone, it's coming to SyFy. Once again, Aaron, can you let everyone know when Revival will be premiering for everyone to watch?
Yeah. June 12th, 10 p.m. Eastern, I guess is what it is. And then it'll be on Peacock 1 week later.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So please check out
Yeah.
Revival. And if you want to check out the comics, they're out now if you want to read them beforehand or not. And I really appreciate it, Aaron.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary Beth.
Yay!